gentleman from Colorado is recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. You know, in reviewing
Thank you, sir.
a big deal like this, there's obviously not enough time to go over a single item. So there's just two that I want to bring up to your attention. One I want to thank you both for. The other one I have to say I'm very disappointed about. So I figured I would balance it with one of each. I'm very thankful for a cut you made, which is a replica of an amendment that I ran on the DHS appropriations bill, which is cutting funding for 287G enforcement by more than $40 million. This is a program that has torn apart families, doesn't do anything to replace our broken immigration system with one that works, and it sends a clear message with this cut in this bill that 287G has no place in our communities, and our budget is a step forward in fixing the broken immigration system. So it's good to see some momentum for addressing some of the flaws and wastefulness in our immigration enforcement programs in this bill. So thank you for including that cut. I was honored to present that on the floor of the House, and I'm very glad that this was included in this bill. Now, however, this only came to my attention some time ago, and I hope that you both have the ability to correct me, because I'd love to be wrong on this, but it's my understanding that PILT payments, payments in lieu of taxes, are zeroed out in this bill. Is that correct, Mr. Chair?
Well, the PILT program is a mandatory program. As you know, provides compensation to local governments for the loss of tax revenue resulting from the presence of federal land in their county or state. Funding for PILT in fiscal 13 was provided in the MAP 21 Transportation Authorization Bill. And it's been a mandatory program since 2008, out of our hands. Fiscal year 2007 was the last year that PILT was funded within discretionary funds. And in that year, funds were provided at 65% of the authorized level. The committee has been provided assurances from leadership, Speaker, and all of leadership, that PILT payments for fiscal 14 will be addressed expeditiously by the authorizing committees of jurisdiction in the House and Senate. What that means to members concerned about PILT, and I'm one of them, is that the Speaker and leadership is committed to making sure counties receive their county payments in June as expected.
At the same levels as previous years?
It's up to the authorizing committee.
And let me reclaim my time real briefly for my colleagues who don't have federal lands in your district. Federal government owns about half my district. We have the local responsibility for fires, for law enforcement, roads on those lands. We are unable to receive any tax revenue from those federal lands in our counties. So as a very partial, by the way, I might add, a very, very partial reimbursement of the costs of protecting your federal lands that happen to be in our counties, we receive a small amount, payment in lieu of taxes. It does not cover by any means the costs that our counties have to patrol these lands, to protect these lands, to maintain these lands, which we're happy to do. But it is extremely worrisome to me that it has been omitted from the appropriations bill. Our counties have, like Congress itself, in fact, largely a more functional budgeting process. They have a very difficult time making last-minute changes on anything like police or fire protection or capital investment in roads or road maintenance, and the ability to predict over time as an important source of their budget is absolutely critical for these counties to function. Absolutely critical, because remember, they have a lot of the land within their counties they can't tax, they can't develop, they really can't do anything on. I know I've talked to Mr. Bishop before about ways that could potentially be remedied in the future, and that, but we are where we are today, and frankly, we do rely on this for county government to function in many counties. And I want to go to Ms. Lowy to see her response on this. Can I assure my counties, after this, if this bill passes, that they will receive their scheduled PILT payments as they have in the past?
Well, let me just add to what our chairman shared with you. It's my understanding that it's an authorizing issue. It's in the jurisdiction of the Natural Resources Committee, but there is word that it may be included in the Farm Bill. And I would just advise you that with your persuasive arguments, you should deal with the authorizers, because it is not an issue that can be taken up in the appropriations bill. But to the extent that I have any expertise, which I don't, I understand your position, and I encourage you to pursue it with the authorizers. It is an authorizing bill.
Well, just this morning, the Speaker addressed the Republican caucus. This issue came up, and he is strongly committed to taking care of this problem in the appropriate authorizing language.
In the what?
In the authorization bill. We just don't have that authority. This is a mandatory item, not a discretionary item.
Let me ask just a quick follow-up question. I believe, please correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe in prior continuing resolutions it did contain money for PILT. Is that correct? In prior continuing resolutions, money for PILT was included.
As I understand it, Jared, isn't it correct that they have between now and June when the payments are due? So
They do. We're just up again. We're up against two things. One, make sure that they obviously get their money. Two, the budget process of counties and the fact that here we are accustomed to doing things last minute. Counties don't, are run on a shoestring. It's very, very challenging if they don't know exactly what they're going to get and to run their county until who knows when. I don't know when.
If the gentleman would yield.
Yes, happy to.
There's been no appropriations bill, either a CR or otherwise, that has carried PILT funding since '07 when it was made a mandatory item. Now, I'm as concerned about this as anyone else because my district also has huge problems with not getting PILT funding as well. So I think there's enough commitment. The Speaker's committed to it, leaders committed to it. Chairman Calvert, California, the biggest PILT state, is committed to it. I am. And we're going to make it happen, but it can't be a part of this bill.
Would the gentleman yield?
I'll be happy to yield to the gentleman from
Just
Utah.
on this issue. When you were talking a moment ago about mandatory spending, and you equated that with entitlements, that's true. But there are some mandatory spendings that are not entitlements per se. This is one. PILT payment has been made mandatory, not by what the House did, but it was done by Senate action to which the House agreed in 2008. And instead of being funded through the appropriations process as it had always done, it was then funded through the TARP bill. It was then funded through the MAP bill. And today, I think there are those who would like to fund it, fully fund it again. And I think you can probably rest assured that it will happen, but doing it through the Farm Bill, and that's where the offsets would come. Having said that, I don't see a great deal of value and greatness in having a mandatory program anytime that's not reviewed. I would like to see this program discretionary one more time. It should be in your appropriations process. It should go back to where it was earlier. That is the proper way of reviewing it, the proper way of looking for it, and I would work to see that we do that in the future. But as of now, and the program, it's likely characterized a little bit different. It does not have to go through the Resource Committee. It is already authorized. It's a matter of where the funding takes place. And the funding is right now you're looking at a funding that would have to come through the Farm Bill. If it is not the Farm Bill, we'll have to find another offset for it. But just for a better review program, the review should actually come through your appropriate committee. I also recognize you had a difficult time in your committee because in the middle or as these negotiations were starting, you changed chairmans of that appropriations subcommittee. So Mr. Calvert didn't have a whole lot of time to get up to speed on it. Yep. Mr. Simpson was no longer there. It was in a transition time, and that was a difficult time for all of these. But I would like you to know that this is one of those programs that should be back in your lap. It should be something that you look at an appropriate time, and if for no other reason so we can make sure that those in the 49 states that receive PILT funding clearly understand what it is, and our good friends don't. I find one of the great ironies of this, especially since it's not in this particular bill, the only state that does not receive any PILT funding is Rhode Island. The Senate chairman of the Interior Appropriations Committee happens to be from Rhode Island. Not reading anything other than that into it, it's just a matter of fact.
Mr. Chairman, I would just.
I'll be happy to, controlling time, I'll be happy to go to the gentlelady from New York.
Oh, I would just like to say to my good friend and Mr. Bishop, I hope you work with us to get a higher allocation in appropriations so we'll have enough resources to cover this issue.
So reclaiming my time again, to sum up, thank you for making the 287G cuts. I think you were both on the record saying you want to work to find a way to fund PILT. And just keep in mind again, imagine, and I think the chair doesn't have to imagine, perhaps the gentlelady ranking member might, imagine the federal government owns much of the land in your district. You can't develop it, you can't tax it, but your local county has to patrol it and keep it safe. So that is an enormous burden on our counties, not through any fault of their own, not through any fault of the residents, it's just through the history of who owns the land. And again, PILT doesn't address that issue. It doesn't solve that issue, but it gets us through. It gets us through. It allows us to get through and our counties to operate. And I appreciate both of your commitment to finding a real way to make it happen. And when we talk about paying for something in the Farm Bill, again, immediately our shackles go up. They can't pay for what they have to pay for in that bill. That's what the debate is about. How are they doing that? I don't know where this extra money will come from in the Farm Bill. I don't know where else it will come from, but I know that appreciate having advocates such as yourself to ensure that this does occur, because literally our counties rely on this to operate every day. And I'll go to the chairman. Yes.
Well, I sympathize with you. I'm with you in the issue altogether. I have several of my counties that are PILT counties, some of the poorest counties in the country. In fact, I'm thinking of McCreary County, next to my home county, which is 80+% owned by different agencies of the federal government. The PILT money that they get in lieu of taxes is in their everyday budget.
Right.
It's in garbage pickup. It's in county road crews and the like. And they simply can't survive without it. And it's one of the poorest counties in the country. So I'm with you on wanting to get this fixed. Mr. Chairman, could I clarify something?
Gentlemen,
We were talking.
I'd really like for you, and if all members will hear this, so please feel free to refer to whatever explanation.
Yeah. In the conversation with the Judge Hastings, we were talking about the COLAs for judges. There is language in the bill that allows judges to receive a COLA based on current law. And then current law, not in this bill, but current law, authorizes judges to receive a 1% COLA, and the money for the COLA is on the mandatory side. I hope that clarifies that somewhat.
The chairman could tell me what page that might be found in the bill at some point. I would appreciate some.
We'll find it out.
No, I know you would, and I appreciate it. Thank you very much.
So to conclude, thank you both for your time and work in putting this bill together. It's a lot of work. There are other things we could have talked about here today, but I do appreciate your attention to finding a path forward for PILT and appreciating the incorporation of the floor amendment that I offered on the 287G cuts, and I yield back.